Good evening and welcome to episode 3. This episode is called Boundaries. And my intentions for this episode is for people to know what a boundary is and hopefully set boundaries in their life and understand how boundaries can help you. So, what is a boundary? A boundary is a line that marks the limit of an area, a dividing line. So there's several types of boundaries: physical, sexual, emotional, spiritual, financial, time, and my favorite one, non-negotiable. So I have a couple of people here with me today, and I would like for them to introduce themselves and tell the people that they can follow you out on social media.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Jonathan Ward. You can find me on Facebook as Jonathan Ward, or you can find me on Instagram at The Chosen 186. That's THACHOSEN 86.
Okay, Jonathan.
All right, and I'm Dante, and you can find me on Instagram at Dante.
Okay. Simple. So, guys, we're going to talk about boundaries today, and I chose this topic because I had to learn how to set boundaries in pretty much in every area of what I just mentioned and stuff like that. So I kind of want to dive in and let's just talk about some boundary setting. So how do you all deal with boundaries in your relationship?
Boundaries in a relationship. I think it first starts with conversation. With anything, there needs to be understanding. I think that alleviates a lot of confusion, a lot of arguments, a lot of unnecessary drama. So first having that conversation, letting that person know where you're coming from, your perspective, your mindset, but also being open to and being receptive to that side of them as well. So.
Okay. What about you?
I agree. You definitely just lay everything out on the table, and you can't go wrong from there.
Okay. Would y'all like to share how did that work for y'all setting that boundary, setting boundaries?
Just being open and honest, being transparent, authentic with each other. And again, I think that comes from building that rapport with each other, spending time with each other, getting to know each other.
Simple things.
Simple.
Yeah.
Well, you would think it's simple, but a lot of people don't think that it's simple because sometimes they feel, because I felt like that when I was in a relationship. I felt like that I had a boundary I wanted to put up, but he kind of did not understand what I was going through. So we could talk about, because that is like the key of,
that's where communication comes in.
yeah, that is like the key,
You
communication. But what does a healthy boundary line look like?
It just comes down like, what I need from you is understand.
To me, like a healthy boundary line is just when people can adjust to your presence. So, for example, you drink or you may drink and I don't drink, and so when I come around it's just like, okay, let me kind of put it away, or let me not be so in your face with it, let me kind of tone it down a little bit just to kind of respect what could possibly, you know what I mean, transpire with alcohol, because I'm sure it's a reason why that boundary it would be there when if just to say if it was alcohol, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
For sure.
what is, because when I was like researching this and stuff, I knew it was different types of things, but what is a sexual boundary? Because that's one of like the 7 boundaries, a sexual boundary. I know, right?
People got all kind of crazy
That's what I was
things.
saying.
So that's
I was like, a
just,
sexual boundary.
if you wouldn't want it done to you, don't do it to somebody else.
That's the golden
that's
rule.
the golden rule.
That's how I
Sexual
feel.
boundary.
That's how I
you know?
feel.
I think for me it's to allow things to happen organically and naturally.
Okay.
If you're trying to force something, then I'm automatically that wall is gonna go up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you
letting
don't wanna
things
give.
happen on in their own timing, and just happen naturally. I think that's the best way, for you to have anything that has longevity or,
Yeah. I get that because when I read that, I was like, wait, what? But I think, but like I said, my favorite one is the non-negotiable boundary. Have y'all ever been in a situation where you had like a boundary that was non-negotiable? Let's talk about personal life now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So give an example. Like,
Okay. So I'm in the field of social work, and like one of my clients, she was a former prostitute. I said that so like elegant, but
street worker.
she was a street worker, okay, and she also was a drug addict, and so at times she would relapse and go crazy on me and stuff like that and cuss me out, and a lot of the times in my job description we're taught to just let them do that because we have to realize that they're on a substance and stuff like that.
It's not fair.
Which is not fair because for me, because I never know when you're high, when you're not high, or when you relapsing or when you're not relapsing. So I told her to come into the office with her daughter, and I had her file. I had every note when she cussed me out, when I told her when she was supposed to be, where she was supposed to be at, and
so
she
you
never
documented.
came. I documented everything, and I said, these are the facts right here in front of a family member, because a lot of times people don't like to look bad in front of their family members.
Right.
And so I knew that, okay, this is the main daughter that loves her, that is like really close with her. So let me get that one, because that's the one she's going to listen to.
That's the one that'll
So,
make her feel it.
She tried to do a rebuttal, and I had all my documentation. I had everything. I said, no, this is where it's at. I said, I will respect you. You're going to respect me, but we cannot have no more of this that has happened in the past that I got right here in your file. And so she said she understood. She apologized. So that's like my most recent non-negotiable boundary, because you're not going to cross that line. I already let you do it 3, 4, 5 times. This is where I'm at with it. And I got the documents right here. You will lose your housing. You will lose your housing.
Flat out.
Yeah. So that was like my,
But yeah, I think again, I hear us consistently speaking about respect. And so for me, it's like if you don't respect the boundary, then that's synonymous to me that you don't respect me or my wishes or what I desire or what I'm requesting of you. So yeah, I definitely am with you 100% on that.
What about you?
I like to think that I'm pretty clear with my boundaries. So, because I'm very communicative, to people about what I like and what I don't like. Don't do that around me, or I'll just remove.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand, you can't control everyone and everything around you. So sometimes you do have to just remove yourself. But in certain circumstances, if people just don't, or just fail to, or just won't respect just basic principles, just of, like Jonathan said, respect.
Yeah.
That's the baseline, basically. Disrespect is kind of like a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. That's that divided line.
It's the
that
divided
definition.
line. We can joke, we can do all that other stuff, but it just has to come back down to respect.
Have y'all ever had to remove? It could be a friend, family, relationship, a person out of your life because they crossed the boundary too far.
Absolutely.
And how was that experience for y'all?
Absolutely. It was interesting. Especially when it's a parent. So it's just when I think in my situation, it was just the fact that your parent can't see you in a different alike. Parents see you as a child, and they will always see you as a child, especially in a black household.
Oh, yes.
You're never grown in their home, But I guess it's hard to see your child growing up and doing certain things and reaching certain milestones in their life. And, I had to just kind of let that go for a while. And then, now we're good. We're definitely, never would go back to where we were, because I'm not the same person I was then. I'm a different person now, and I feel like they see it and they respect it, just flat out, and I see that they respect the boundaries I set off. around everyone, and it ring through the family basically.
Okay.
Because it's just when I come around, it's just basically it's a lot more respect, and it's not to say that they tiptoe, but they just understand like we're not gonna go there with him, and I'm for it. I don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like boundaries can be either extended or they can be relaxed, but for me it's based off of how you treat the current boundaries. So if you don't respect this boundary, then I'm not going to extend or allow grace or leniency to even entertain the idea of allowing bigger boundaries, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And so for me, it's quite simple. I only, in any relationship that I'm dealing with, whether it be romantic, whether it be spiritual, whether it be professional, I ask for, time, honesty, and respect. I believe people make time for the things that are important. So that's a boundary. If you don't have time, don't waste my time.
Right. That part.
So,
That part.
You're on my time.
Yes, exactly.
Be honest with me. Tell me the truth. Don't lie to me, because I'm going to be honest with you, regardless of how bad or how difficult it is to receive the information. And then again, respect. Do unto others as you would want them to do unto you.
Mm-hmm.
That's very simple. So a lot of people struggle with that.
Right, they do. I think my hardest was creating boundaries within my family.
Family boundaries are hard,
Family
aren't they?
Boundaries.
You know
has
why?
been the hardest
Can we
for me.
Yeah, because I'll keep it mild. You always come off as an asshole or
Yes.
a prude, or you know what I'm saying, and it's
Or better than.
or better than.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's rough.
that was my hardest, but my most healthiest.
It
Did not
feels good,
realize,
right?
yeah,
It
did not
feels good.
realize
It's
how
empowering.
much baggage that could be when you just create that line. And then sometimes people identify when you start using boundaries, because if you didn't have it set from the beginning, that's why I feel like it's important to have that boundary set at the beginning, because I had to learn the hard way. When you set that boundary, it's like, oh, you change it up, or oh, you fake.
But I think even with that, as we grow, as we have different experiences, I think the boundaries change. So you do have to allow, again, grace or room for change, because we as people, we change. The dynamic of the relationship changes. And so it's not going to, like you said, it's not going to be how it was before.
It'll never be how it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
It'll never be. It'll never
Once
be how it
that
was.
trust and that respect is broken, it's never
I
going to
mean,
be.
not only that, but it's just like you showed me who you truly are.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Especially when it's a family member. It hits differently,
I feel like we're obligated to forgive,
Exactly.
Yeah,
accept,
you're supposed
or
to,
look
because y'all
over,
have the same
give it a
blood.
pass,
Yeah.
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 So
Did you grow up with boundaries in your household?
No.
See?
Everybody said what they wanted to
And,
say. Everybody did
it-
what they wanted to do.
I mean,
So it was like,
I grew
what is
up-
a
It
boundary?
wasn't that.
There's
It wasn't
none.
like that.
I
but
grew up in a military household, so yeah, there were definitely boundaries, and I don't know if that helped or hindered me actually in my adult life, because I'm very structured. I'm a very planned person, but because I was so sheltered in certain areas, I'm very open in other areas now that I'm grown.
Do you think it balance out though?
Definitely.
Okay.
Sometimes the scale is tipped.
Okay.
But I'm working on balance.
Okay.
So balance is a boundary.
Absolutely.
Okay. That is one. That's a good one. So what about financial? Financial boundary.
Okay. You brought it up. You brought it up first. You're hosting, so we're gonna.
I know. I'm about to, because I immediately went to a relationship. I was in a relationship, and he felt like my money was his money, and his money was my money.
That's that
But
conversation I was.
But I'm like, well, wait a minute, no. You have your job, I have my job, and he noticed that I was acting funny when it came to certain paying for certain things, and I'm like, okay, well, you play it and you pay for it, and it's not because I couldn't pay for it, but I felt that if you have the same interest as me, you would equally do that. Like if you want to plan something, plan it.
Right.
And so we just had the conversation one day, and because we never had that conversation, I said, and my boundary was like, I feel like if I you need to put as much finances and everything, because you work, I work too. I don't
Right.
care about what the salary is.
Right.
I feel like that you need to put forth that as well. And so we really had to sit there and talk about it. And obviously we actually was not even in a relationship, we were dating. Obviously we ain't dating no more, but
First of all, that's where you went wrong.
we were dating. And that's why I said, how do you expect from me? Because that's what he said. Like, it's like, because he was like, oh wait, if I got it, you got it, and if I got it, you got it. That was his exact words. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm giving it more, and you ain't got it. You don't got it.
Again,
And so I had to really talk to him
That's a
about that.
communication
it is.
thing.
It was.
because
We did have to stop.
You communicate with your partner
It's the conversation.
that you know, my money is funny or whatever the case is. I mean,
He never admitted that though.
okay, so then
He
But
never
again,
admitted that though.
that leaves it
Hey,
up
that's
to
the
assumption
shortcomings.
though. Like,
Exactly.
and again, it may be a boundary for him, but if he's not aware of that boundary, then in my opinion, you can't really hold them accountable or hold them responsible to that. You're upset with them for knowing something that you haven't communicated to them.
Well, he said that his dad took care of his mom. So he feels that if he's in a relationship with the guy, then the guy should take care of him. And I'm like, no, you're a guy too. And you
Everybody
work
needs to go
too.
to work.
Right, right.
You know, I
He
mean,
took-
it don't
so the way
matter.
that he even said it still was like, wait,
Everybody
what?
needs to bring it back home. That's
But
it.
that's like roles. Like, again, like I keep saying it.
That's
It's-
a boundary.
it's-
Roles are boundaries.
It is.
Roles are
It
boundaries.
is.
Yeah.
But I think we should.
that could be, again, financially, it could be sexually, whatever. But again, if you don't have that understanding, that conversation, then in my opinion, you're always going to be bumping heads. You're always
True.
going to be clashing, unless, like I said, it's one of those situations where it just organically works.
Right.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's a natural instinct to do that to that person. Like, hey, I got it. We going out. Boom. You know. So it just depends on the person with that one.
And then some people won't let the other person pay.
Yeah.
True.
You know, so I don't know.
It's very tricky when it comes to finances, even with anybody, like even in friendships, even, you know, that when it comes to finance, that's how it's like, that's,
See, but finances for me in relationships usually isn't a problem. It's usually with family. That's when it becomes tricky more so because, you know, family, you can get your money back, not all the time, but sometime from, you know, your lover or your ex-lover or whatever the case of a friend. But family, sometimes they're so entitled that they feel like they don't have to pay you back.
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So I feel like when it comes to family,
That's a
I'm
donation.
yeah,
it's a donation. Let me borrow this, but you ain't
got
gonna never
it.
get it
You got
back.
it like
You
that.
got it like that. I would not.
man,
I
look.
despise when people say you got it like that. You don't know what I got.
Listen, I pay my tithes and offering.
Come on, Alfred. So boundaries help define what you are comfortable with and how you want to be treated,
Absolutely.
and what you are willing to. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, as long as it's nothing crazy, like there are healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
Well, I think
yeah.
to set a boundary is healthy because you're saying you're not going to cross this line right here.
And
So
if
I feel
you
like that's
cross it,
even
yeah.
healthy to even say you're not going to cross this line right
But you
here.
got to be too careful sometimes. You don't want to lay certain boundaries out there on the table because you're going to have people who going to test the boundaries. They want to see
if it's really
if
a boundary.
it's really a boundary
Oh,
or
yeah.
a cap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you really got to be careful what you put out there. As far as like, oh, I don't like that. Like, like this is a boundary for me. Like that's, you know, sometimes you got to sit back and observe a person and see like, okay, I know they felt a certain type of way or they know I felt a certain type of way. Now let's see if they catch on to it.
Because, you know, I went to school for communication. Well, I minored in mass communications, but you have verbal and nonverbal communication, right? So the verbal, of course, is us communicating, us speaking that to each other, but the nonverbal is the body language,
Right.
or the silence. Because
Silence, yeah.
you know, so you have to look at both. You don't necessarily have to communicate that in words as far as what a boundary is for that individual.
Yeah, but sometimes I think, and that's why I wanted to have because sometimes people don't know how to set the boundary. Because with setting boundaries, you have to have self-awareness. Sometimes people are not aware. Sometimes people are afraid to even, I'm afraid if I set a boundary with that person, I'm going to lose that person.
You know, my experience with not all, but a lot of my big boundaries is usually called out by someone else, honestly. And it's called out by someone that's really close to me, a friend, or whoever, that's really close to me. And once it's called out, once you see something, you can't unsee it. And then you really start to sit back and like, dang, I see what they talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then that can kind of start the spark of, okay, so when they come around, I know they're going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then they're going to get the point eventually. And then eventually, if that person is and care about you or whatever the case is, value your friendship or whatever relationship you have with that person, they'll pick up on it and just knock it off or correct themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. That's good. Yeah, no, that really is. That's good. But it's I think for the people that struggle, because I struggle with boundaries. But not now. I'm quick to here it goes. The line right there.
Cut you off.
It's
That's
not even a line. It's a wall, so you can't even cross it. But for me, I was one of those people that I didn't want to lose a person, or I didn't know how to set it, and I didn't know how to put it there when it comes to certain things.
Yeah, that was like 20-something.
Yeah, I was about 20s.
Yeah, I don't care now.
Yeah,
now it's like deuce, like it's less stress. It's the stressful to hold on to those type of people.
Yeah, and then making sure, like, even your circle. Like, I remember my mom, I used to always tell her, Mom, you don't have any friends. Like, oh, you don't have any friends. And she said to me, I can count on my hand how many true friends I really have. So I think it's important, too, with boundaries that, you choose your circle wisely. So even when you don't recognize that a boundary needs to be made or you're not enforcing that boundary, that your circle will enforce it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that comes. My therapist, she told me to get the book Set Boundaries, Find Peace. And so I had to find peace, so I start setting boundaries.
Right.
But it talks about that. The people that respect the boundaries, they will be there, and they will root for you to create those boundaries.
You can't choose your family.
You
can't choose your family, but you can choose your circle.
Yeah, you can.
But ultimately, you want to be comfortable around people, especially if it's people that you actually care about.
Yes.
But at the same time, you don't want to be disrespected. You don't want to come off as a pushover, or you know what I'm saying? Like, it's you just got to put your foot down sometimes.
Right. Okay. So self-awareness, I think, would be like the first step.
Absolutely.
So creating a boundary for the people out there.
If
Self-awareness.
don't
Self-awareness, because people do struggle. Because it comes easy to some people. It doesn't come easy to others. Like, I had to learn that. My therapist had to tell me that. I had friends that told me that, but my therapist really had to show me how certain things in certain situations I was putting myself in because I had to create the boundary.
Right.
And she said, no, you have to do this from the jump, because if you allow it to happen, then you already got a whole entire mess.
So, like, because I know you have a lot of different ventures that you're in, that you're entertaining. So specifically, I guess, for, your brand, being in philanthropy and all of that, like, what are some of the boundaries that you've had to set just in your business, in your brand?
Honestly, a lot of my boundaries came within myself. I had to discipline myself. I have to say, no, you cannot go to this event. You need to focus on this. You need to write this business plan. You need to, and as of yesterday, I signed back up to get my degree in social work, because I have certifications, but I'm like, where I want to go. And I'm like, you know what? I put a down payment on my classes yesterday, and I'm like, okay, let me enroll in this social work class to go back to school. So a lot of the boundaries had to be within myself, and it was hard, because sometimes when I wanted to go out, have a good time, be around everybody and stuff like that, it's like, okay, Friday passed, Saturday passed, and that drunkenness the next day, it lingers. I said, this is what your body feel like when you in your 30s. It lingers the next day. And I said, okay, no, you need to have a boundary, drink this much, do this much, give this much to this person, give this much to that person. And I also learned to put my phone on silent. You need this time for yourself. You need an hour. I did that earlier after work. You need an hour to yourself. Put the phone on silent. Just go in your room and just chill. And so I've been putting boundaries within myself, and I've never been as happy as I am now. Like, I'm just fully happy.
Self-love.
And yes, everything is that's that self-awareness. Like, that's part of the boundary. But all of my boundaries come within self, and so it has came with people, but had to learn how to put the walls and boundaries up within myself so I can love myself.
I was gonna say that. Like,
Yes,
just
so I
in
can love
knowing you
myself.
over the years, like I think one of your boundaries, I don't want to say that you struggle with, but
I did. I know what you're about to say. I did.
one of the boundaries that you revisit often is just learning how to say no to people. You're a very giving person, and so even when it comes to throwing events, you know, and having people support you and things like that, it's just, no, you can't have a free ticket. No,
Right.
you need to pay for this ticket.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you know, you need
Yeah.
to, you know, and it's okay to say no and be unapologetic in your no.
Absolutely. Because if they're going to support you, they're going to buy the damn ticket.
Exactly. And that's what's been helping me. And I think that's where my boundaries more so has been about Isaac. It hasn't been about anyone else. And so I've been doing things. And when you set those boundaries up, I'm learning stuff about me that I didn't even know. That I didn't even know.
strength, right?
I'm like, well, wait a minute. And then I'm going and I'm revisiting some things back in my life that I'm like, okay, I did love that. I was sleeping on that. I know I'm excellent at that. I know I can grow in that area. Let me nourish that real quick because that plant
sure.
been dead a little bit.
Right, right.
So let me just pour some water on it and take it in the sun. So yeah, my boundaries have came within. I'm going to continue to create them like from within. Yeah.
I am setting boundaries.
Yes.
Telling you.
Okay, so self-awareness, communication, and being assertive, meaning express yourself. And then so you have to be consistent. It's kind of like what the pastor say. Like you can hear this prayer, you can go to church and you can hear this prayer and you get prayed for a fallout, and then 2 hours
right
later,
back to doing what
yeah,
you want.
2 hours later, you're gonna go right back into that. And I think that with boundaries, you have to be consistent in your boundaries because it's gonna be those people that's gonna say you're fake. It's gonna be those people say you ain't
Right.
changed. They're gonna bring up what you
But
did in
it will be
20.
true if
20.
you're not consistent.
Right. They're gonna bring up what you did in 2020. They're gonna
Right.
do what you did in 2019, and they're gonna because I've experienced that too. I've experienced like, oh, you're still that same person. That was from 4 years ago. But I'm like, okay, that's how you feel. That's how you feel. You're over there. So I think with boundaries, you have to be consistent and not let
Absolutely.
the outside noise
Yeah,
cloud
for sure.
what's
That
What
part.
you
Yes.
know is right for you.
Exactly.
Or what you're setting.
exactly. Exactly.
I agree with that. That's like baseline. You have to be consistent. Like, and it doesn't matter how it comes off. Like, you know, only someone new to the boundary will be offended or feel some type of way about it or will pick up on it. Because to everybody else who just naturally just respects the boundary, it would just be second nature to them. Like, it won't be no combativeness with it. It'll just be like, oh, that's just.
Or it's like you said, it's already a boundary for them.
It's
too.
already a boundary for them too.
So it's
like I said, if you
being
wouldn't do it to
equally
somebody
yoked,
else,
like,
I wouldn't do it to
For
you.
real, you know, I'm a church boy. But
Come on, church boy. So, what are some of you all's boundaries? We're wrapping up the episode. Like, comment, subscribe, and please let us know, like, do y'all struggle with the boundaries? What type of boundaries did you all had to put up against family, friends, or even work? And just comment, like, subscribe again, and thank the co-hosts. Please follow them on social media. Please reach out to them. And I'm pretty sure if you inbox them a question about boundaries, I'm pretty sure they both will tell y'all.
I'm very open.
You're very open
I'm
and
an open
honest.
book, okay.
I think they both will tell you all. So that is the episode on boundaries. Thank you for tuning in. And please reach out not only to me, but reach out to them via social media as well. Have a good night.
Thank you for having me, Isaac.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
it.
us.